So just want to say, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is our customer-led webinar with RB&W. This webinar will review how they manage win-loss, sales opportunities, and their pipeline. My name is Michael Frey. I'm a part of the sales and marketing department at GR Technology. Our webinar speakers will be RB&W's own Tricia Combe, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, and Don Bowersox, Director of Business Administration and Planning, along with GR Technology's Project Manager, Nate Campbell. Before we get started, I do want to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded. All attendees will be muted, but I will keep the Q&A section open for anyone to type in any questions. And during this webinar, we can address those as they come in. But for now, I'll hand it over to Nate to discuss our agenda for the day and have Tricia and Don expand on RB&W's Plex usage, Salesforce CRM, and GR Technology's great platform.
All right, thanks so much, Michael. And again, thank you to everyone taking time out of your day to join us here. I'm very excited to have a conversation with Tricia and Don about everything we've accomplished together. So let's jump right into it. Just as a brief overview of what we'll be touching on today, we'll do a quick introduction of each company, GRT and RB&W. We'll go back in time a little bit before Quote Express and before Salesforce and what kind of challenges RB&W was facing. And then we'll get into how we solved all those problems and moving forward, how that's impacted their business and their day-to-day operations. So I will start with the GRT introduction. We are a Plex partner and have been since 2015. Anything from Plex support to new implementations to classic to UX transitions, we can handle that. We also do custom developed applications, such as today we're talking about Quote Express, and we also have an application for project management that we call Project Central. And we have representation on both coasts as well as India. So yeah. And I will hand the RB&W side off to Tricia. Tricia, if you could tell us about your company a little bit.
Yeah, as soon as I can manage unmuting myself, I will do so. By the way, I actually do this for a living. So RB&W is one of the largest producer of cold form products in the United States. We have locations in Michigan, Ohio, Ontario, Mexico, the UK, Germany, China, South Korea, and Taiwan. We are a leader of engineered cold form products, as well as a proprietary product that we call SPEC. And we are a subsidiary of Park Ohio Holdings, which is a $2 billion corporation that is traded on the New York Stock Exchange.
Great, thank you so much. There we go. All right, so like I said, let's hop into that time machine for a little bit here. I'm going to start with Don, from your perspective as a business admin. Take us back to before this project and some of the pain points you had. Talk about some of the spreadsheets that you guys were using, and you had information over here and information over there, and just please talk through that.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. One of the challenges that we really were looking at as an organization is our growth initiatives. And RB&W is looking to double their business here, or we are looking to double our business here in the next 3 years. So as departments, we were all sitting back looking at how do we work smarter, and how do we become more responsive. And so we spent a lot of time looking internally as to how we were doing things and things we could streamline. Not only as I'm in business administration, but I do work very, very closely with Trish and her team in business development. And so as we sat back and we were looking at a lot of the forms that we had and a lot of the way we were preparing information, we were doing a lot of it offline and in kind of separate compartmental areas that then we would pull together and into a system that, you know, you had to attach and download and do this, that, and the other thing. Mentioned, we are an engineered fastener supplier. So we're not just quoting a widget, we're actually quoting an application and a solution for an application. So most typical quote systems really aren't geared to us because we need to understand the application, and then we need to be able to design and provide the correct solution for that. So one of the first things we have on here is we have what we call our self-SPAC form, which is a self-Pearson clinch form, you know, which was an Excel document where we would get application information from the customer. What's the material? What's the grade of the material? What's the thickness? How are, you know, what type of installation method are you looking at? And again, that was an Excel form that when you go into a quote system, you would have to basically attach that there. You couldn't actually enter it into the quote system. Then we have feasibility and tooling. So we have installation tooling as well. That was a separate Excel form where then, as we're talking to the customer, you know, how do you want to get the product in? And so then we'd have to fill out that form, and then that's another attachment. And so as you can see here, we just kept building all of these attachments. And so as we were stepping back, looking at what's a better way to do this, and the best way to do it is enter at one time. And so we wanted to engage in a system that allows us to have multiple people in an opportunity and be able to fill out the necessary forms and have them saved directly into the quote system for that specific application. Then the other side of that also is with the new business award process. That also we were doing offline, that we would pick what we called the new business award process. We wanted to be able to do that right from within the quote, be able to go into a specific quote, hit that part and act and initiate it right from that level. Again, the goal to do it all in one system, do it one time. And so that's then when we really started our engagement with Nate, Ganesh, and the GR team.
Yeah,
So
thanks,
for
Don.
I'm sorry. From my perspective, I want my people out in front of the customers. I want my people out selling. I didn't want a cumbersome process. Don and I had multiple conversations over the years, and he's absolutely right. The process kept building upon itself and becoming more and more cumbersome as time went on. So I again didn't want my sales group parked in front of a computer, you know, spending 60% of their time filling out paperwork in order to generate a quotation back to the customer.
Great. Thank you, Tricia. And just wanted to add to what Don was saying about the different spreadsheets that were being filled out, such as the SPAC form. Not only is it cumbersome to keep track of all those different forms, but there's no real method for reporting on all that information that you're entering. And so we'll see some reporting later in this presentation, you know, entering it one time into Quote Express, being able to capture that data and turn that data into reports that you can react off of down the line. So,
yep.
And Don, I think this is more focused on your side, so I'll go back to you. Yeah. Just a little bit on the IHS market forecasting and your experience with that.
So the one thing I do want to touch on, the first point there, is the integration of Salesforce to Quote Express. And just as you were mentioning, the old way we were doing the SPAC RFQ form, it was an Excel document, and it was just contained as an Excel document. As we move forward with QE, and we're actually entering this information into QE, we're able to bring that data over into Salesforce. And so we can run reports off of thread sizes that we've quoted, product types we've quoted, so on and so forth. The nice thing with also the integration of Salesforce, it allows a search mechanism for our sales team as well, because we name our opportunities based off of an OEM, a platform program, and an application. One thing we do not want to do when we're quoting an application, we don't want to double count it. Like, we know the OEM designs in an application and then it pushes down to the tiers. And so one key thing that we have put in place is when we recognize an application, we actually copy that quote and we don't include it in the pipeline multiple times. We don't want to give a miss on what we really have out there in, in active state as it relates to volume and new opportunities, which is one thing that Salesforce and QE were very nice in us being able to link together. The other key part of this is the IHS data that you mentioned, Nate. As we look at IHS, we want to understand starter productions for new and platforms and programs that are coming up, vehicle builds that they're planning on doing, and then as time moves forward, how that's changing. So as we're looking at our opportunities, we understand what that means as it relates to starter production and if vehicle trends are going up or down. So that was another key variable with QE and Salesforce for us, is to have that link, because we do have that link in our Plex system today. When we're awarded new business, we put a part into our system, and that part is linked to a customer, which then we link to the IHS. So once that part is in production, we can track that part and understand when the end of production is coming forward. So as we're starting to see that end of production coming, we can go forward to the customer and say, hey, is this carrying forward onto the next program and platform, or is this ending? And so we can make necessary adjustments with our planning to make sure we don't have any obsolescence or anything of that nature. From a Plex standpoint, then, as I just touched base on, the nice thing with Quote Express is we're pulling our costing, our customer data, and component costing all from our Plex work centers. Historically, we've always kind of built, again, same thing. We build our costing offline and then go and enter it into our quote system. This allows us to actually pull from our work centers and cost centers that are already in the Plex system, and we can pull off of various cost models as we choose. The other nice thing with the Quote Express is customized workflow. So for part quotes, we have one specific type of workflow as it goes through engineering. With installation tooling, that goes to a different department, and there's a different workflow. And then even when we get to the new business award process, there's a third workflow, and they're all independent from one another, but yet they all have their own workflows that we can step through.
Great, thank you, Don. Tricia, anything to add on this slide?
No, again, the system that we had been using in the past, the fact that it was so complex led to a big time drain for us. In addition, the process of pulling the IHS was all manual. Our people were keeping track of quotations in their own separate Excel spreadsheets. This has been an absolute shot in the arm and moved us forward, and been a huge cost save.
That's a good point too, Trish. As we talk about our, our Quote Express system, we've even taken the IHS data when we're entering an RFQ, as we're tying it to it, the data is showing us that, hey, this program and platform, it has an EU demand, and it also has, a greater China or North America. So as our sales team is selecting, if they understand, hey, this is a global, they can check all three. If it's only a Europe-based application, they can check Europe, and we can track our quotes off of that detail as well.
And the reason why that's important is that doesn't require our team in China to go back and quote it separately. It doesn't require, they can just copy the quote and submit it locally.
Yeah, great points. And also, most recently, what we've been working on with you guys, and how often automotive programs change, or a platform changes, or OEM gets renamed. And if you would have had to go back to all the spreadsheets you filled out and correct everything. So we could talk about this a little more in the solution section, but
Sure.
Being able to say, okay, program A now is program B, and shift all that demand over to this newly named program, and just, giving you that visibility, so you know exactly what's going on with all the automotive forecast.
Nate, you could work
Yeah.
here.
Well, I was in automotive for 5 years, so I dabble. I
wow.
dabble.
Be free.
All right, thank you so much. So let's move to the solution. What do we do? What do we do with all these spreadsheets? We're using Salesforce. We're using Plex. So Plex is our source of truth. That's where we get all the master data, customer information, part information, even all of the historical quotes that were done in Plex before Quote Express came about. So that's always our foundation for any of the newly generated quotes. We push all that data into Quote Express, but also talking back and forth with Salesforce. Quote Express is really based around that workflow of at which step do we need this type of user to either complete the tooling form or complete the SPAC form or the feasibility, who's doing the costing of the product, who determines the markup. And then on the Salesforce side, it's more opportunity management, what's coming down the pipeline and so forth. So I'll go back to Tricia for a second. On the Salesforce side, just talk about your experience a little bit as far as using Salesforce and how it flows back and forth with Quote Express, if you could.
Absolutely. So again, I can't stress enough how manual our process and labor intensive our previous process was. The flow back and forth is absolutely seamless. We are able at any time to go in and track a quotation from, as we say, from womb to tomb. We can see exactly where it is in the process, if it's with the engineering group, and whereas before it was always an email or a call into somebody, we can send messages back and forth through Salesforce and update processes or put things in notes as we're updated on, we get updated information from our customer. It's been completely seamless. We're absolutely thrilled with it. And from my perspective, we have the ability to pull reports out of the system and get real-time information that in the past was a real struggle for us. And that has been absolutely critical to us winning some business, where we were able to react on a dime and be able to share information with our customers very, very quickly.
Yeah, thank you. And Don, if you could talk a little bit about having that Plex master data coming into Quote Express and knowing that it's reliable, and being able to complete your costing with confidence, as well as on the customized workflow, if you want to expand a little bit on the email notification system that we've developed together. And so you know exactly which quote is in which stage and so forth. So.
Yeah, the part costing, obviously, it's always nice when we have current parts that are tied to work centers, right? And we know we're going to be running new parts on those same work centers, that we don't have to go through the calculation, that we can pull that directly over onto a quote. It makes things move much more quickly from that standpoint. And then even if we're quoting a same as part, maybe it's a current part, we can just go in and enter that current part and it pulls that costing directly over. So you don't even have to necessarily build a process router every single time. It's only for the new parts. So very slick, very, very smart tool, and a nice way to use the data that's already in Plex. Same with our historical quotes we brought over from Plex. We can take today and revise an old historical quote and move it and action it in our QE system as well, and it's reporting into Salesforce just like any other opportunity. So we don't lose that history. We can just keep building on it instead of creating a new opportunity. Customized workflows are very, very nice. Obviously, anytime you can see where something's at in the process, who has it, it's very, very good. And then the email notifications, knowing that, hey, this is with you now, is very, very slick. We also have on the log as well, anytime you can set statuses and see where things are at as well. So very nice just knowing where things are at, getting notifications when it's been pushed to you, so on and so forth.
Great, thank you.
And Nate, before we move forward, I do have a question. Does QE support multiple PCNs?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple different ways to handle that, but we do support multiple PCNs. We have one instance that they have 5 PCNs, and they actually just brought on a 6th and sunsetted a previous PCN. So yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Does the integration build the part, process routing, approved work center, BOM, and HIS and Plex?
Does it build it in? Oh, does it? Oh, okay. So after the fact, can we push the bill of material to Plex? I think is the question there. The answer is yes, we can do that. That's not a problem. If the question is, can we pull it into the application from Plex? Also, yes, absolutely. So I hope I'm addressing that question correctly. That does lead into our next slide, and Don touched on it there for a second.
Yep.
As far as process routings go and being able to pull in what is the master process routing for a part, and then being able to make adjustments to either the work center or the run at rate, and also the like part feature. So Don, if you could take a minute to talk on that.
Yeah, it's kind of repeating what we already kind of touched on, right, Nate? Right,
Yep.
Nate. So as you can see here, we have the work centers as an example, that WASH01. So that's a work center we actually have built into Plex, that as engineering is building this, it's saying it's sequence 20, and then sequence 30 is TAPA1. And with that comes the cost that's attached with each of those work centers over into that operation sequence in work center.
Yeah, and it almost gives you capability of what if scenarios. So if you wanted to pull in a like part, in this case the 51.1C, and then say, oh well, if it runs on wash 02 instead of wash 01, or if it's we're going to run it at this speed instead of this speed, you have that ability to make changes to the process routing in Quote Express without affecting any of your master data in Plex. And so you can kind of play around with how the cost would be affected by different operations at different work centers and such. So
yeah, good point. Like as an example, maybe you build this part, but then you need to put a prevailing torque feature on it. So you can just add that as another operation, but you can use this as your building block and add to it based on your additional work centers that you'd like to add.
yeah, or even your offshore cost sheet where you're either building it in-house or you're having your sister company build it and then you bring it in and finish it.
Correct.
You can any kind of scenario where it might run here, might run there, or if you're building a subcomponent versus subcontracting out the subcomponent, gives you that flexibility to see what the different costs could come out as.
Correct.
So we did talk a little bit about reporting. Quote Express does come with a reporting tool, and I have a couple examples here of what that looks like. I won't spend much time on this. These are just examples, but I do want to get into Salesforce reporting with Don and Tricia because they've really gone above and beyond with all the Salesforce reports they've developed. So I want to get to that, but we do have just a couple slides here of examples of reports that could come with Quote Express. This is a dashboard from Salesforce, an example dashboard. So again, all types of different charts and graphs and different ways to represent the data. And I threw this one in here, Don, to also talk about workflow again.
Yep.
As we, sorry, go ahead. I'll let you do it.
No, this is a very important workflow for us, as Tricia and I work together here with the team and understanding where quotes are at. Historically, you've always been salesperson dependent. You'd have to have them send you some information. These are the active quotes I have, or whatnot. This allows us the ability to see it live, and we can run reports off of it. So we have various statuses. Like right now, you see this quote's just sitting in RFQ. When it's complete, it then triggers a salesperson that, hey, this quote's complete. When they send it to the customer, it moves to sent to customer. And then we have various other stages. Active, we use that as we're in discussions with the customer, either on samples or doing some installations and testing, or something of that nature. Confirmed would be the customer has said, yep, you're designed in. It's too early to award the business, but it's confirmed. And so what we're really trying to do with all these active, confirmed, we also have a status called sample slash build, sample slash proto build PO, and then we have closed won. And what we're trying to do with all these stages is keep opportunities in front of us so that we move everything forward to this closed won category. And closed won to us is we have the contract, not just a spot buy order, not just the one-off order, but we actually have the blanket contract purchase order for the business. And so anything that's an active, confirmed, or sample slash proto build stage to us, we're putting that on a radar that we know we need to bring it forward to that last step, which is the closed won.
And
As well as the ability to go back and look at things that we've lost, do a post-mortem. Why weren't we successful? All that information is very beneficial to our company.
Yep.
yeah, and Tricia, just for your salespeople to be able to come in and go to My Opportunities and see exactly what's on their plate. They don't have to go digging and see what is in what stage. They log into Salesforce and can see everything that needs to be worked on right in one place. So
Correct.
Yep.
all right, global Ford platform quantity. Should I toss this to Don or Tricia to talk about?
Well, it's something we both discuss on a regular basis, so I think either one of us would be able to handle it. Just my 2 cents on this is we track all of our businesses. Our strategic decisions are based on which platforms we're going to be pursuing worldwide. And this gives us a great tracking mechanism as to where we are in the process. As you can see, we can demonstrate, for example, the GE1, GE2. You can see how many are active, how many are in the closed won stage, confirmed, and so on and so forth. It also gives us just a quick ability to do a quick snapshot as to how many parts we've quoted to date, which is key to us doing our forecasting as we review things that are coming down the pipe with the closed won and confirmed. Don, you want to add something?
Sounded perfect to me.
All right.
All right, that means you get the next one done.
This is more of just a little different look. This is closed won. So now we're just kind of looking at the closed won. The one on the left is showing OEM and quantity. So it's just kind of showing you what the total is there, and then the breakdown within there. Just different way to look at some of the information there. And the one on the right then is a platform as well, the sum of the quantity.
And again, this one is a good snapshot for us because we can see if we're winning more business in, for example, China, and what do we need to do to support those builds in China, versus additional business maybe coming into North America, but not until later down the line.
And then not only closed won business, but any new business coming in. you look at the incremental new business report.
Yes, correct. So this will tell us where we're seeing our growth, and it's in the title, the incremental
Yeah,
new
and-
business,
Yeah.
yes.
And just to be clear, these are not out of the box Salesforce reports. These are reports that
Customized.
RB&W has developed, and we've helped
Correct.
them develop some of them. So it's very flexible, very, very intuitive, I would say. Pretty easy to figure out how to build these reports, but done a great job with a lot of different types of reports, Don and Tricia and team. So
Oh, well, we've certainly asked for a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, as long as you've got the data in QE, you can write the reports in Salesforce, right? So as many fields as you have open, you can bring over and you can write reports off of it, which is very, very nice.
right, exactly. All right. Well, we are coming to the close here. Got a few minutes before we get to the Q&A, but just from each of you, from your different perspectives and different responsibilities, just talk overall how it's impacted your day-to-day, how it's impacted the people on your team. So whoever wants to go first.
Done. I have no problem with jumping in here. So as we had said before, the level of efficiency here has increased tenfold. There's no duplication of effort. We're able to track things so much more efficiently than we ever have been in the past. The salespeople have access to information at the touch of the screen, rather than a phone call, an email, waiting for somebody to return a call. And in addition, I've lived through a lot of these implementations and in the past, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, this has been a complete dream. We've been so lucky to work with the Quote Express Group to, I know we've probably made you guys want to pull your hair out on more than one occasion, but we were very interested in getting exactly what we needed out of the system. And sometimes that would change, and sometimes we'd come up with new ideas. Don and I touch base on a pretty regular basis on what we would like to, a wish list, and we've yet to have anything be shut down. So we're very appreciative of all of the effort from the GR team and their ability to ebb and flow with us.
No, I agree. Working with Nate, you and Ganesh and the whole GR team, it's been a fantastic experience. I mean, obviously you have a very thorough understanding of Plex and everything that is there with Plex, but then understanding what we're trying to do with the quote system and linking the IHS and the ability to reassign programs and platforms as the names change in the quote system, and then the reports we're trying to get out of there has been huge. And then also understanding, how we're trying to share the information. I know in years past, Tricia and I would always talk, and she's like, Don, your department sees everything. We don't necessarily see everything just because of the way the quote system was in the past. And with this Salesforce attachment to QE, and with the way we've named our opportunities, it's a lot easier for our sales team to go in and start doing some searching off of how we've named our opportunities, to find them and look at them and say, oh, hey, yep, this is exactly the same opportunity I'm working on. I can just copy this quote, right? And then from the reporting standpoint, these reports that we're showing are shared. People can go in and you can drill down in there. If you're curious on certain opportunities, it'll give you the quote numbers. It'll show you the parts we've quoted, which then you can go into the detail if you'd like in QE. So it's been a very nice way to share information and eliminating duplication of effort for sure.
Yeah, and the feeling is mutual. It's been a great project. Obviously, we work very well together, and it's been a really great partnership. So appreciate that. All right, Michael, how's the Q&A looking?
All right, yeah, so definitely have a few on our side here. One that came in was, is the data, is the quote data available in Plex from QE? Expanding on that is if someone wanted to evaluate production or sales numbers with the quote, or even evaluate performance metrics, is that available from within Plex or QE with Plex data?
So the first question is the quote data available in Plex? Yes, we have a way to push quote data to Plex. It just depends on the level of detail you would want to push. So we have some implementations where they're only concerned with the quote header, customer address, and what part was on the quote. That's all they report off of. And then we have others that go further and they want to see all the pricing and they want to see the quantities and such because they use convert to order. So the answer is yes. It just depends on how deep you want to go with that. And sorry, Michael, could you repeat the second one? It was a little long.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, if someone wanted to evaluate the production or the sales numbers with the quote, maybe evaluate performance metrics, would that be available, or would they do that within Plex or with QE with Plex data?
Probably the best way to do that would be to push the quote data back to Plex and compare it to your Plex production data. I don't think we're doing we're not doing any production data pull from Plex for RB&W at this time. It really depends on your main reporting tool. Some companies like Plex reporting and they want all the reports to come out of Plex. Some, like Don and team, use Salesforce. Some use Power BI. Some use Tableau. So it really depends on where you want that data to be. We've connected up all kinds of different reporting applications. So it's a case by case basis on what you need for your implementation.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the expansion on that, Nate. Even maybe leading in or building off of that one is, did RMB's project or RB&W's project include historical data?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
A whole lot of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we were in a previous, like a homegrown quote system before we went into Plex, and then we launched Plex in 2019. So what we brought 2 years of quote data over to QE, if I remember correctly, Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so with that historical data, a lot of the bulk of the work is mapping the fields to the correct field in the app and making sure everything is organized. But also, what if you want to revise or copy that quote and it becomes a refreshed quote, something that was quoted a year ago and sort of became dormant? We had to give RB&W that ability so they don't have to start a quote from scratch. The quote already exists. So yeah, absolutely, we dealt with historical data. Again, it's a case by case thing. RB&W wanted to be able to copy and revise those quotes and work on them in Quote Express. We have implementations where they just want to be able to reference back what was quoted. Okay, we quoted this part to these customers. What did we quote? So again, pick how deep you want to go on it. But yeah, we can handle lots of historical data.
And we actually took the historical quotes as well that we had as one business, and we actually identified it as one and pushed it into Salesforce. So we didn't just bring it over and sit it in QE. We actually linked it so that it had some type of status.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. And was it difficult to transition RB&W users onto the great platform?
I can speak for the sales team. It was a very easy transition. We really had it's almost intuitive. It was a very streamlined process. I think we had 2 training sessions done, and everybody was.
Yeah.
We were up and running.
I always joke when we build it, we tried to make it like ordering something on Amazon, right, Trish?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we want it very simple. You have some required fields. We've identified those required fields. You fill that out, you're good to go. You can get it, you know. But so yeah, we tried to make it very, very simple because that's the last thing you want, something very cumbersome that takes forever to complete.
Exactly.
Yeah, and not only that, if you're thinking about going into a new implementation and you have these spreadsheets that you're quoting off of, and you already have a defined process, everyone in your company knows what the process is. Our goal at GRT is not really to push a system down your throat that you have to abide by. We look at those spreadsheets, we look at your process, and we build around a process that already exists and works for you. We just try to make it a little more efficient, and we want to be able to capture that data to use in reporting. And so the overall flow of quoting, and Don, you can jump in, but the overall flow in your process has not changed a whole lot. We've just been able to take some of those spreadsheets, replicate it in the application, and build a workflow around it so everyone knows what their role is and what they're supposed to be doing in the app.
You're exactly right. And then you've even made some relationships too, right? Like some of our products, there's a specific installation method. So we just default it right away. You can't put it in any other way than this. And so instead of making that a field you have to fill out, if you pick this specific product, it automatically populates that. Or a thread tolerance, it'll automatically populate a thread tolerance based on a certain product. And so we took out a lot of those things that you had to check the box and complete depending on what was there. So yeah, for sure, it definitely made things much easier and more streamlined.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate everyone's input there too. Is there capability of adding custom quote attributes that can be utilized in the workflow?
Good
I was
morning.
just saying, yeah, in Plex's workflow.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Pretty straightforward. There we go.
Short answer, but yeah, I don't see why not. Basically,
Yeah.
you know, this is very similar to our Thursday call, Don. It's like, hey, can we do this? I'm like, yeah, probably. And then we figure it out. So yeah, you know, we get new suggestions all the time and new ideas, and it's great because it challenges us and it makes us better, and we figure out how to do things that otherwise we wouldn't have had to do. So I'll just say, yeah, I don't really see that as an issue, but it's not something that's there today. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And another one, I guess this would kind of be for both GRT and RB&W would be how did we organize the implementation and how long did it take?
yeah, so I'll start with that if that's okay. The base implementation was about 6 months, and I'll let Don sort of fill in the gaps on the backstory and the direction RB&W was going. But in essence, to organize the implementation, you need to involve the high level executives. We call that sort of the steering team of the project. And we know what the end goal is. We know high level what we need to accomplish. But you also need to have the day-to-day folks involved to make sure it's usable and efficient and follows the process that they need it to follow. So there's basically two different sets of meetings that happen. You have your steering team or steering committee that meets and makes sure that we high level we're on track. And then we have another call where we get kind of into the nitty gritty details of what the application needs to do, what data we need to pull and push, and what this screen should look like and what this should look like. So that's basically high level. That's what the organization of the project is. I'll let Don jump in on how sort of back to the beginning again, how it started. And you were thinking of going one direction, Don, if I'm not mistaken, and then Quote Express came into play, and we sort of shifted everything with the Salesforce implementation and whatnot.
Yeah, so initially, I know our IT department was talking to me, and we were just talking about exactly what we started with, trying to streamline our processes and make us more efficient. And Tony Durante and Daniel came to us with, Nate and the team at GR. And so we engaged on that side of it. And then as we were moving forward, Tricia had come forward and said, hey, what do you know about Salesforce? And I'm like, we did a demo a few years back. And so we started talking on that. And then we engaged with Nate and Ganesh on the Salesforce side. And it evolved then that, hey, we can link the two systems together and the two can talk to one another. So that's kind of how that happened as we went from just QE only to the QE Salesforce side of it. As it relates to the team that we had, it was very cross-functional because in our quote system, there's multiple hands that touch it. I mean, we're an IETF certified company. We are quoting an application. Our solutions are, engineered for the application. And so we want engineering's, input and selection. We want quality, sales, obviously, and then business admin from the pricing standpoint. So as we move forward with the implementation, we start up two meetings a week. All of us were part of that. I know Tricia had selected what we called drawing a blank champions for the areas, for our geographical regions, and then it was up to the champions to share with the group on what we're doing and where we were at with statuses and how we're moving forward with the system. So it was very, all of us having input on what we want to do, how it should work, how it should flow, and sharing that information. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and then just to expand on the organization, now that we've been live for some time now, and as we come up with new ideas how to improve the software, we do utilize a system called GR Tickets, where we can, anybody from RB&W who's using the app can put in a suggestion for an enhancement, and it tracks it, and we can comment on it and upload screenshots and upload videos. And, we go through those on a weekly basis with RB&W and decide what would be a good enhancement, what we need to table. And that way everybody can go in and see exactly what enhancements are looking towards the future, what's on hold, what's urgent, what's not urgent. And so now that we're sort of in this, I don't want to say maintenance mode, because we still come up with new ideas basically every week. We use GR Tickets to organize all those thoughts, and everybody can go in and see what is going on. So even today, like, I'm sure you saw Gabe was in there today, and we're talking about your NBA form and some adjustments, and we're just commenting back and forth, and it's seamless. You don't have to gather 5 people to get together on a call to talk. You just comment, everybody sees the comment, you can follow along. And so it's a really nice way to organize the phase that we're in now. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I appreciate that one too. Even expanding on the communication, getting this process going for that implementation and even afterwards. Well, awesome. I appreciate the questions, number one, from our viewers. And if there's any more after this presentation, I do have some contact information on the next slide. Feel free to shoot me a call, send me an email. We'd be happy to get in touch and assist you with your operations. I do want to say thank you again to the RB&W team for presenting and expanding on their Plex usage, Salesforce, a great platform as well. I will be releasing the recording of this webinar for those who were not able to join. So feel free to share with your team members. And again, keep in touch. We will give everyone a few minutes back here. Ganesh, I see you're on the line. Do you have any closing statements on your end?
No, just want to thank everybody, and special thanks to Don and Tricia for taking time and doing this presentation and sharing your experience with our GR Tech team. Thank you so much.
yeah, much
Thank
appreciated.
you. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
And yeah, we'll post this recording. We appreciate everyone for joining, and you guys have a good rest of the day and a good rest of the week.
Thank you so
very
much.
You do the same.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.